Game key cards have been a hot button topic online. People seem to love them. Actually, no, wait, that's the publisher, I'm sorry. Really seems to like them. Why wouldn't they? Because it does appear to save them money, and even for some enables them to go to retail with these games that otherwise wouldn't go to the Switch 2 or would just be digital, because let's face it, money makes the world go round, and if it doesn't line up when it comes to the accounting side, it's just not going to materialize on the game side. Still, though, people have been curious about what exactly is inside of these different Switch 2 cartridges, not only with the game key card, but also with things like Mario Kart, since it's supposed to be a 64GB cartridge. At least that's based on some of the reports going around. Well, thought it was finally time to cut these things open, and that's what we're going to do here today. We're going to at least see what's going on inside of it, get a good picture of some of these different cartridges with the chips, and then kind of let the internet maybe do its thing to figure out exactly what we're looking at here. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. Today's video is sponsored by Belkin and their new charging case. Nintendo's next generation hybrid system is now out, bringing a new level of power on the go with higher frame rates, HDR, and a big new screen to protect. Of course, if you plan to travel or just want to store your new system with confidence, Belkin has you covered. The charging case hugs and supports the device all the way around with a nice soft touch material. There's plenty of storage here for your physical games, along with a deep pocket at the top to bring any extra cables or accessories with you. I did say this was a charging case, and as you can see at the bottom is a removable 10K power bank equipped with a right angle USB-C cable, letting the system charge even when stored away, providing tons of extra playtime for those longer trips. The hard outer surface provides ample protection in case of any drops, and the strong handle on top lets you carry the case around with confidence. Click the link in the description below to protect your new Nintendo Switch 2 and give it a boost on the go with the Belkin charging case today. Thanks to Belkin for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so the plan is to have two different cartridges. One that is more the control variant like this. Mario Kart World is a cartridge that Nintendo put the entirety of the game on, but the game is, if you look in your system storage, if you have it downloaded, it's 22 gigabytes, I believe. So it's nowhere near the like needed 64 gigabyte cartridge that apparently they're using here. So I figured, okay, this will tell us if there is a 32 gigabyte maybe that's out there. You feel like they would have used that then in this case. And of course, the other one is our game key card, which is Street Fighter 6. It's the one that I could find at the midnight release that I did. I was looking for maybe like, we have the Bravely Default game. That's, I think, the cheapest game key card. I have to look, but I think that's like one of the cheaper ones. So Street Fighter 6, there you go. I do plan to be able to get both of these cartridges back together, so I shouldn't be destroying it here or anything. I mean, I have to open it, technically kind of destroy it, but I've done this before with Tears of the Kingdom as an example, and I still use that cartridge to this day after I put it back together. You might be wondering, how exactly do you get these cartridges apart? Honestly, it's kind of guesswork in general, but for the most part, I look around the corners at the top, and usually there's like a little bit of plastic that's not there. It's almost like you can see right there, a little notch. The idea is to get some kind of straight edge or something there, and then slowly wedge it apart. Now, these are pressed closed here, you can see, but they usually line up pretty well, and I've even glued a couple of these back together again, and they worked fine. So let's see if we can get this guy apart. So there we go. We have some separation right there. I just want to get a peek inside just to see if there is a board that I could potentially be hitting. And now it looks like the top is completely hollow for Mario Kart World. So let me work around the side here. So if you have to open at these for whatever reason, start at the top, I guess, and then work your way down. You can see it's coming apart pretty clean, actually. So see if I can separate down here, and should be like just one clean pull. And there we go. Completely off, no real problems there. Should be able to glue this one back together very easily since it's just two pieces here. Street Fighter 6 fault me a little more, but it also came across there as one piece. A little more breaking though on the right side here, but we do have our chip. Let's see what we have. Okay, I'll put an image here for you that has a nice big resolution with, you can see all the numbering, the lettering, everything that at least identifies the chip somewhat, okay? And that's what we're gonna get to here. So, you know, I'm looking over this, and this is where it can become kind of tricky just based on how much information they decide to put on the chip itself. So I did cut open Cyberpunk as well, since they've talked about it again a lot as being a 64 gigabyte cartridge. But unfortunately, you know what? That's the one where it doesn't really indicate much as to it being a 64 gigabyte cartridge. Now, at the top, they do indicate with the markings here. As you can see, it lines up. And I started to look over some of this to try to get an idea as to what we could take from it in terms of just the idea of what exactly these cartridges are. So, for example, with Mario Kart World, with the indication here in the center, honestly, when you start going over that, we've seen R20RG before. That has popped up with previous Switch games, like the cartridge itself, so identifier or just manufacturing identifiers, say at the factory level, where they'll at least be able to have things in an assembly line and know what speeds they are or what class they are. And then typically when it came to Macronics, as we've identified previously with something like Tears of the Kingdom, you usually have some kind of indicator in gigabits. So in this case, I do see 512. It's right below here. So my mind immediately was like, oh, okay, well, if this is a 64 gigabyte cartridge for Mario Kart World, 512 gigabits divided by 8, there you go. You're at 64 gigabytes. And that does lean into the idea of the reports we've seen going around that there's a 64 gigabyte cartridge and then there's a game key cart, and that's kind of it. Now, I will say a lot of the releases do also seem to back that up, since it's game key card for half of the games on the Switch 2, which is like all third party for the most part, outside of Cyberpunk, which, looking over the indicators here, there's really not much, to be honest, looking at it, that seems to point towards it being a 64 gigabyte cartridge, at least with the markings and the indicators on the top of the chip here. Again, I kind of wanted to have at least everything just laid out with, you can see the different cartridges at the top, so you know which one's which, really. But that way, if people want to look into this a bit more, they can. The one that is really, still a mystery, is this game key card. So this tells us nothing. I mean, I am looking over TSL, and it almost looks like it's kind of like TSL, then C7700-5. I mean, I'm nothing. Nothing's coming up for that at all, right? And then there's also this indicator here. It looks almost like a QR code. Usually you have those, again, at the factory level. So when it's going through like a more automated process, you can scan. It's for tracking inventory in their systems. So it's, again, I have the numbering here. I figured a lot of people didn't want to cut open their cartridges to see this stuff. So it's just like, here it is. And we're also kind of working with somewhat of a limited number of games, of course, and the ones that I had access to here at midnight. Now, I could probably go out and find another game key card and then another game key card and keep trying to go until I find one that has more indicators on it, but this is just kind of what I had here with Street Fighter 6. So that is kind of unfortunate there. Now, there's still speculation that we're looking at like MRAM or something, because it does seem to have a warning attached to it with magnets that apparently can maybe erase the game. Maybe we could try that. I don't know. Do that in a video. Hey, can we erase Street Fighter 6? I'd like to keep the game if possible, but I mean, it's for science, I guess. But for me, looking at this, we know Cyberpunk 64 gigabytes. Mario Kart World also appears to be 64 gigabytes. So there you go. It does seem like that's kind of what we're working with here. These are the two chips, I guess. Game key card or 64 gigabyte. But let me know what you think down in the comments, especially if you're someone who is very familiar when it comes to chipset and identifying numbers and stuff on top. I've gone through that before with many TSOP chips and other things, but I will say sometimes you come across one, you're just like, wow, there is like nothing out there. And then you have to actually dig through data files on some of these manufacturers' websites just so they match up, because usually they'll have images, but not text that accompanies it. So it's a whole thing there to really dig through. But I figured, again, people would be curious. So here we are. Let me know what you guys think about all of this down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.